My friends and I decided to conduct a little experiment by taking DNA tests to see if our suspicions were correct about our wives. We thought it would be a fun activity. However, when we gathered later to reveal the results, the atmosphere turned tense. The excitement quickly transformed into shock. Just recently, I found myself in a scenario that drastically affected multiple families, and it all began as a joke. I was right in the thick of it, even playing my part. Let me explain how it all transpired. I am 35 years old, happily married to my wife Ira, and I have a son who's almost 5. All my close friends are settled, and we get together at one of our cottages about once a month. We've maintained a strong bond since childhood, making a pact years ago to prioritize our reunions unless something truly pressing distracts us. On what would turn out to be a crucial day, we gathered for a barbecue filled with food, laughter, and drinks. It was warm, so the pool was open. While the women and kids splashed around, we focused on prepping the meal. Amid the festivities, Henry, one of the guys, remarked about how his son was developing a personality so different from his own that he hardly recognized him, and there was little physical resemblance. Jackson, always ready with humor, jokingly suggested maybe the child wasn't his, since those paternity stories often appear on TV. We all laughed and continued drinking. Then, someone half-jokingly proposed that we all take DNA tests, just to be sure. No one truly suspected infidelity, but with a few drinks in us, the idea began to shift into serious contemplation. After agreeing to share results at our next gathering, my son and I headed to the clinic for our tests, fully confident in their outcome. When our results came in during our next meetup, the atmosphere was filled with barbecue aromas and camaraderie. For once, we decided to leave our wives at home. Camillo shared shocking news. His DNA test indicated that his wife, Evelyn, had turned out to be a stranger to him. We were all stunned. Camillo explained that his wife had denied any doubts for years, but ultimately admitted the truth when confronted with the ironclad results. Surprisingly, the child was his wife's younger brother's. They had a brief fling during their courtship, and they both acted like nothing happened after the wedding. Therefore, the daughter he loved was, in fact, his niece. Ironically, Henry's initial joke turned out to be accurate. His child was indeed his. However, Camillo's wife, who initially denied everything, spent a long time pleading for forgiveness, attempting to manipulate everyone into swaying Camillo. Despite it all, he stood his ground. At a family birthday party, he publicly revealed the truth, triggering a major family drama that involved shouting, insults, and even physical confrontations. My heart ached for little Evelyn, just 7 years old, who was caught in the middle of this chaos and later learned that her father wasn't her biological dad, but her uncle. It was heartbreaking to see a child suffer the repercussions of adult mistakes. As time passed, Camillo's emotional state became evident. While putting on a brave front at gatherings, his grief was palpable. He had found out that the daughter he had raised for 7 years was not his, and that his wife had cheated with his brother long before they married, yet had acted as if nothing had happened. Struggling with this betrayal, he seemed stuck, unable to take action. Recognizing this, we, his friends, decided to intervene. We conspired one Saturday night to confront the absurdity of the situation. Camillo was persistently being treated like a doormat. On the day of our usual barbecue, when Camillo arrived, we could see he seemed weary, trying to pretend everything was fine. In the middle of our conversations, Henry brought up the issue head-on, confirming what we already knew. He wasn't addressing the situation back home. While he distracted himself with drinks, Jackson and a few others headed to Campillo's house to collect his wife's belongings and throw them out onto the lawn. When Camillo returned home, he was stunned to find the bags on the street, with his wife and brother helpless and shouting nearby. For the first time since this ordeal began, he took a deep breath, and a sense of relief washed over him. He walked inside and closed the door, starting his journey toward liberation. Following this, rumors circulated about his wife and brother. There were speculations about them temporarily staying with their parents. His ex eventually attempted to sue him for money, but ultimately failed since the house was in Camillo's name. Camillo took time to heal, but eventually, he rebuilt his life, finding himself again. Months later, during another barbecue, as Camillo watched the kids playing, the weight of his grief resurfaced. Henry realistically pointed out that he missed Evelyn, and Camillo admitted the truth. Although she wasn't biologically his daughter, he had greatly contributed to her upbringing. We agreed that it wasn't fair for him to miss out on her. Our group raised money and researched family law, discovering that Camillo might have grounds for shared custody, despite not being her biological father. Motivated by our belief in him, he reluctantly agreed to pursue it. While the legal battle was taxing, the judge recognized that the bond between them was uniquely paternal, leading to a favorable decision: shared custody. When Camillo saw Evelyn again, it was deeply emotional. They embraced, both overwhelmed with worry and love. From that moment, things began to change for him. He started smiling, re-engaging with life, and eventually even began dating again. Years have passed since that fateful day we laughed over the DNA tests. Unpredictably, life took unexpected turns and friendships have deepened. Today, Camillo is thriving once more, having rebuilt his life in a new home and with a new partner. He remains an active and loving presence in Evelyn's life. Our friendships have matured into something invaluable, and we stand by each other through thick and thin. After all, we discovered that real friends don't let a brother sink, and we might occasionally consider Henry's crazy ideas. Just maybe.